pretty loud.
It sure is.
But not loud enough.
It wasn't. You know, it was a big leap and bound forward for improving the volume of the guitar, but not enough. So, what happened next? This electric guitar, right?
The Stratocaster.
Well, that wasn't right next, but this is what this is.
Much louder.
Yeah.
It's ringing in the...
ringing that one. It's really tough to play that and then play this. It's so different on your fingers. But anyway, you get the picture. Okay.
That thing really resonates a long time.
Yeah, it does. Certainly does. But anyway, so how do you go from that to this? Right? Is that your question?
Yeah, how do you make
Okay, well, check this out.
electricity turn into music?
Okay, look at it this way. How do you go from this to what was just before that?
Backwards.
Yeah, that's the best way to figure it out. Because it's easy
Wooden
to all
guitars.
talk about the pickup and how it was invented and everything. But what facilitated all of that is this right here. The steel string. Okay? I mean, that's huge. That was a huge thing for the world of guitars. Okay? You know, I mean... So what happens is... Don't quote me on the dates, but around 1927, Gibson releases a string, a steel string that the public can buy. Because before that, what did guitars have?
Plastic strings.
No, before that, they had strings made out of sheep intestines.
Gross.
Really gross. Sheep intestines. And
But they broke a lot.
They weren't stable, they didn't stay in tune very well, and they weren't loud. Okay, nylon comes along, a little better. All right?
Like playing with a rubber band.
Right. The concert guitar still isn't heard very well, so enter the steel string. Well, this guy says, hey, you want a louder guitar? I mean, this guy went into business in like 27, okay? And then this guitar is 1928. So as soon as the steel string comes around, because you couldn't do any of this with a nylon string, he invents this. He says, you want a louder guitar? Check this out. I'm going to make it with a metal body, and I'm going to put 3 mechanical speakers in it. It's ingenious. It's incredible. Okay? And at the same time, because of the invention of the steel string, or because of its widely being available, let's put it that way, you get these guys over at Rickenbacker. Okay? This is the birth of the electric guitar. You know, they figure out now that they have something magnetic to work with. We already had amps, we had microphones, right? But we didn't have an electric guitar. No, and then because of that pickup, figured out how to make the voltage run down here and into there and turn into music. Okay?
Right.
Electricity.
How do you make it turn into music?
Well, that's the crazy part.
Just electrons, isn't it?
That's the hard part. Okay? So the first thing you have to do is understand what electricity is. Okay? And I get guys all the time that say to me, you know, I've been doing this for years, and I've heard this over and over. Hey, man, I really dig your amps. Do you know of a kit I can buy? Because I want to learn how to build an amp. Is there a kit I can go out and buy, learn how to build an amp? And I say to them, well, do you know anything about electricity? And they'll say something like, oh, you mean electronics? Because somehow they think there's a division between electricity and electronics. And I say, yeah, okay. And they go, well, yeah. And I go, okay, so then you know Ohm's Law. And they say, whose is what's? I mean, I don't want to learn that. That's all hard. I just want to build a guitar amp. Okay, so I try to be very polite, and I say, hey, listen, I say, you know, I mean, it's really hard getting through the day in this world. I mean, you know, do you really want to do something for a living that you don't know what you're doing? I mean,
You don't intrinsically understand.
right? It just doesn't make any sense, right?
A lot of frustration involved in that, I'd imagine.
Right, and they don't understand the reality of that because they're not me. They're not getting all these emails from all these guys. Oh, I built this amp. I built 10 of these. I don't understand why this one doesn't work. I went on a forum and tried this, this, and this, and I still can't get it to go. Can you help me with this? And I read the things they tried, and I realize this guy doesn't know anything about how electricity works. He shouldn't be building a guitar amp yet, right? So I go back to that guy I'm having the conversation with, and I say, well, learn a little bit about electricity first. You'll be much happier. It'll be a whole lot better for you. And I'll say something like, do you know what this is? Yeah, it's a hair dryer. Okay, well, do you know how it works? Well, yeah, it blows hot air and dries your hair. Okay, but you really don't know how it works. And so pick something like this, not that. That's not the place to start, okay? That's not rocket science, but it's a whole lot more complicated than the hair dryer, okay? So, start somewhere like this.
Simple.
Okay, so how does a guy do that? How do you, because you say, oh my God, electronics is so hard. I look inside a TV or a computer, you know all that, and I go back to saying, okay, what are you going to do? You're either going to go to school, which doesn't fit a lot of people's circumstances, or my suggestion is early textbooks from people who are doing this stuff, tubes and stuff, when it was brand new, because that's all you're doing. Okay, you're not building a computer. Okay, so if you go to the earliest textbooks, you're going to have a much easier time learning. Now, I got a tip that'll make it real easy for you. Learn what electricity is first, because you're going to get in those textbooks and all these big words are going to confuse you. Okay, and
inductance.
It's half the battle for people. They're reading all
Greek
these
letters.
Right, and they basically don't have a basic understanding of electricity, okay? And there's nothing wrong with that, because if you were early man, had no reason to know anything about electricity unless you were so unlucky that you were one of the few human beings on this planet to get hit by lightning.
Well,
okay?
The people that saw it happen, right?
Or the person that saw it happen, that's very good, and it's like, wow, what is that? It's mayhem. Is what it is. When you
away
say,
from that.
Yeah, when you say electricity is hard, you don't know how hard it is. I'm going to explain how hard it is, but I'm also going to explain how easy it is. Okay? So, in those days, you lit a stick to see where you were going, and then even years later, you lit a gas lamp. Even in the first cars, there was no lights. The lights were gas lamps.
Candles.
Candles, literally like candles.
Burning fat with a wick.
Right, exactly. Okay? So, I'm going to give you an example of what electricity is. Okay, so I'm in my early 20s, another Bob story here. Okay, and I'm working for some big electrical company, and we're redoing the lights in an office building. And these office buildings had huge rows of fluorescent lights that ran on a system called 277 to ground, I believe it was. I'm going to tell you something. If you were on that ladder and you got caught in line with that, and somebody didn't tag that breaker, I just don't even want to tell you what it felt like. It's like a tiger with a head this wide just clamps down on your arm, and it's like when it's over, you're just on the top of that ladder going, and you just feel completely violated, and it's almost personal, and that's electricity. In case you've never been electrocuted, it's mayhem. Okay, it's
total. You can lick a 9-volt battery and imagine a million times stronger.
There you go. It's just total mayhem, okay? So this is what early man saw. But somehow guys like Tesla and all these other guys figured out something about electricity, a very simple thing that made them understand how to do things with it and how to use it. Because what is it? It's a natural resource, a source of energy on this planet, okay? So
space too. Electric universe.
Yeah, and it's mayhem when you get electrocuted. Okay, but if you've never been electrocuted, I'm going to give you a real simple way to look at electricity. Okay, and for any of you guys on those forums that are electrical engineers and know everything about electricity, you might want to change the channel now, because I'm going to get a little silly here, and it's not for you. This is for guys that are starting out, okay, that want to learn something about electricity. And the reason why is because, look, the world doesn't need another 50-watt Marshall, okay? The world doesn't need another one of Alexander's amps built by a guy who's never even seen the inside of one of his amps, okay? Why in the world would you want to do this? You want to do this to do something better, okay? That otherwise it's sad, all right? So
create.
Yeah, you want to create. So you need to learn about electricity, okay? Because you can't even fix something you built if you don't. These guys, their amps sit in the corner and they start building another one. They can't figure it out. And when I fix something and somebody says to me, man, I've been looking at that for 2 weeks. You found out what was wrong with that in 10 seconds. It's not because of my experience in fixing things. It's because I really understand electricity. So when I start measuring that circuit, I know the things that are going on. I don't have to have ever seen that amp before. I can look at it and figure out by looking at the circuit what it does. Okay, I don't care what it's for. I can figure it out. So here's a crazy simple way to look at electricity if you haven't been electrocuted. You want to see the mayhem in it. It's 4:20 Friday afternoon. You're on the 30th floor of a building in LA, okay? And you're looking down on the street. It's rush hour. Traffic is everywhere, right? It's already mayhem already. But some virus got released earlier in the day.
Okay, Professor Bob. Continue on.
And
This is your simplified version.
Yeah, it only affects people in automobiles now that are driving, okay? And just for the purpose of this conversation. And exactly 4:20, all these people driving these cars become insanely possessed with only one goal, and that goal is to kill themselves in a fiery death. And all they know how to do is floor the gas pedal, keep their hands straight on the wheel and their head straight forward, and just gun it, okay? You can't talk to them, you can't reason with them, you can't go down and smash the window and yell, get your foot off the gas pedal. They don't know any of that. And if you get in the way, you're dying with them, okay? That's what that electrocution was like. That's what it's mayhem, okay? And I'm going to go up on the 30th floor and I'm going to tell that guy looking down, see that energy? You're going to use that to do things like build this camera that we're holding, this little stereo Sony camera made for recording concerts or whatever it is, or your cell phone, or you turn the lights on, or build a guitar amp. You know, I mean, you're gonna use this, what you're looking down on, and that's what looking in a TV or something is like. You're like, oh, geez, well, it's the same thing. You look down on that and go, what? You're gonna use that, or being electrocuted? You're gonna use that? But what you have to understand is that it's totally predictable. All you have to do is learn why they're doing that. Okay? What these zombies in those cars are doing, one with their car, is trying to die in a fiery death because they hear something that's calling them to do that. Okay? And now, when you start designing and building things and understanding electricity, once you know what that is, you can dangle it like bait or like a carrot to get them to come, and you can use them to do things. Okay? Now, what is that's calling them? Okay?
The brick wall.
A brick wall, or blah 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 blah. It's the earth. It's the ground. Okay? When you hear the word potential to ground in electronics, just think of that. That's the carrot. Okay? That's the death camp. That's where they die. That's what they want. Okay? So
like a black hole that sucks them into it.
You could look at it that way too if you want. All right. So now you just have to start figuring out how to control these things. Okay? Because once you know that's all they want to do,
make them light up like a light bulb.
That's right. You can make this guitar make sound. Okay? But
electric toothbrush.
The thing that's crazy about this universe and this planet is if some force of this planet turns out to be predictable, like totally predictable, then guess what happens next? Then smart guys can figure out formulas for that because it's predictable. Okay? So now I'm going to go back to, I'm going to open this discussion up to simple electronics for you guys first starting out to see how you can use this. Like, so when you're reading these textbooks and you read these big words, right? That you won't be so frightened by the big word because you can always go back and think this way.
How what the zombie's really doing.
Right. Okay, so you have Ohm's Law, like I mentioned. E-I-R. Okay? And these are going to be things you plug into the formula to figure out whatever you want to figure out. And then there's more complicated formulas, but they all stem from the same thing. So let's take a very simple circuit and explain this. Okay, you got a piece of wire. Okay? That's the road these crazy possessed zombies are on. Okay? So if you said, well, you know, how much resistance is in that wire? Well, how bumpy is that road? Okay? You know, how tight are the walls squeezed in? Because that's going to impede the flow. They're going to be smashing into each other, right? Because they don't know anything but just to do that, all right? So now you're going to do something.
So it doesn't hurt them to smash into each other, only to the brick wall.
No, it does. You'll figure out it does that also. So now all of a sudden, okay, you need to get these things all over the place in this circuit to do these things. You can't kill them off all now because you need them for later. And believe me, there's always enough of them there from the beginning. That big box on the telephone pole out there comes into that wall. You have enough of those possessed zombies to do whatever you want to do. Okay, but now it's just a mess. There's that carrot is so strong. They're all on that road. What do you do with them? You want to smooth this out. Okay, so here we go. We got a wire. Okay, we got a resistor. We got a capacitor. Okay, so what is a capacitor? Oh, well, I learned it's this, and this. All this electronic talk, all these big words. Let's look at it real simple. It's a parking lot. Okay, and not the kind of parking lot like you go to SeaWorld and park in the parking lot and then go into SeaWorld and then later in the afternoon you come out. It's more like the line that goes like this.
Like Disneyland for the most popular ride.
Right. Okay.
Like a queue.
Right. So you're going to dangle that carrot, and some of them are going to go in there because it's, oh, there's death right there. Okay. So you get them in this parking lot, and you keep fooling them, and then there's fancy words, dielectric. But they can't die because that's in the way. Okay? They try, they climb the fence, they can't hit the earth and just explode. Okay. So they keep trying to find a way. Well, while they're doing all this, you're smoothing out the traffic on that road. You can bring them back later, okay? And then between them, you can put a resistor to narrow the road down and get them in line and stop making them, you know, all crazy, okay? It's a real simple way to look at a resistor and a capacitor, okay? And, you know, you can see how when you start learning the formulas, if you think this way, it'll be real easy for you at the beginning and even years later to always understand what electricity is. When somebody says, what's the current right there in the circuit? Don't just putting your meter on it and reading the number, but always remember what that number means. That the pressure, that's got that much pressure right there for different reasons, because, you know, E is equal to I times R. So what is everything else going on? You know, so when you go to fix something, you'll know why there's something wrong there. You don't just have to go, wow, how did I found that last time? Maybe this is what's wrong with it. You know, I mean, all that stuff I see in my emails. You know, it's like, just learn about electronics, and it'll be so much easier for you to get.
Memorize your multiplication tables so you can do some other math later.
Right, you'll enjoy it so much. And all those formulas, that's just textbook stuff. When you learn that, that's simple. That's easy. Okay, that's just reading and learning. But it's understanding what you're talking about, what electricity is actually doing, okay? And then that's what those guys figured out, okay? They figured out it wasn't just some evil force that, you know, they figured out that it's totally predictable. So looking down from the 30th floor and going, oh my God, I'm supposed
like gravity.
I'm supposed to do something with that, and then when somebody, you know, figures out with his kite, right, that it's predictable. that
Benjamin Franklin.
yeah, it's going to ground no matter what you do. You can't talk to it. That's all it wants to do, and you use it to do things. So if if you're sending stuff through a resistor and dropping them off, you can either kill them off in heat, or there's a voltage drop across that resistor. So you start learning more about formulas, and you go, oh, I can dangle another carrot right here and use them in this voltage drop, okay, and have voltage for something else. So, it's a simple way to get started, to make, when you start reading those textbooks, it not look so complicated, because you don't know this world, electrons and all these words, and you're not sure. You've heard them before, but you're not sure what they really mean. Crazy possessed zombies in a car trying to kill themselves in a fiery death by getting to the earth, to ground, okay? And that's what you do when you control them, and you make them do things for you.
So this is Professor Bob's theory of zombie electrons.
Zombie
Electrons.
Electrons. Exactly. If it helps you
Electricity
out,
101.
right. If it helps you out, great. That's really cool. If it doesn't, sorry for wasting your time.
Well,
But
maybe some of them should make these instead.
it just this conversation is designed for all the people that ask me, that question, what kit should I buy and all that, and
Or how do I fix my amp?
right, learn what electricity is. There's no division between electricity and electronics. I grew up with electricians.
And it's all zombie electrons.
I grew up with electricians that were engineers and could handle entire plants of all the motor controls and you name it, because they don't just run wires through a building and hook up outlets like you think of electrician. I mean, there's the other guys that actually are above that, and so electronics and understanding electricity is the same thing. I don't care what you're building or what you're lighting up or what kind of motor you're running or wiring or what you're doing.
Those big things behind the chain link fences with the giant electric things, and the people that make those, that handle those, that who you're talking about?
Oh yeah.
The
Oh
big-
yeah, that's the power plant.
The big transformers.
And that's the transformer. That's the manufacturing of these crazy maniacs, okay, that are going to enter your world when you go to design something.
And it
you're
holds a lot of them.
Yeah, and you're going to get some of them out of your wall through a wire. They're going to come, jamming down that wire. And you got to understand that they're completely harmless unless you dangle that carrot. You can put your finger in that wall all day long. Nothing's going to happen. They don't know anything's going on until you dangle the carrot. You touch ground with another part of your body, you're done. Okay? There's no question. They don't ask. They just go.
The body is a good conductor of electricity.
That's right. They see it, and they will rip you apart on their way there. Okay?
So they can't just go through the air. They have to go through a substance.
Well, that's a whole nother discussion, that there's substances in the air that, for short distances.
That'll be part something else, 2, 3, something.
Well, that's getting into another subject, but anyway.
Higher level zombie electron theory.
Right. Anyway, here's a simple theory for you guys just starting out. A new way to look at it, so to speak.
Think of electrons as if they're zombies.
Right.
That want to die in a fire.
Yeah. Bingo. Peace out.